Hey there YouTube, it's your boy Lippet out here with another reaction video. Today we got the genius design of Dutch money by Hoog. Let's get right into it, shall we? Hit it.
This is the gulden. It was the Dutch currency for hundreds of years. Then it disappeared.
Vanaf 2002 gaan we immers allemaal betalen met de euro.
This was a shame. Not the euro, but the death of the design. Its colors outdid every dollar. Its lighthouse stood above all buildings, and its portraits embarrassed the queen. Some say even killed her. The gulden changed the face of cash forever. I believe it's the best paper money ever made.
It looks so good though, by the way. Nice and colorful as well.
Why was Dutch money so different? Why does it look so strange?
Yeah, fair enough.
Nog steeds hoor, als ik mijn biljetten zie, dan vind ik dat hele leuke biljetten, ja.
Ocha Oxenaar was different. He designed government-issued stamps with dramatic, playful colors. Then he used brand new techniques like computer-generated graphics to create complicated geometrical patterns. In the 60s, he made the Erflaters, a series of 5 portrait banknotes, from the Vondel, a writer, Hals, a painter, Zweelinck, a composer, De Ruyter, a naval commander, and of course, Spinoza. Together, they all look kind of odd. Oxenaar's faces look more like they belong in a comic than on a banknote.
Dutch notes are very distinctive. They are unlike any other central bank's notes that I'm aware of. Visually very striking. I can imagine that not everybody likes
them. They're very very geometrically really nice, really smooth to look at, but I think it's kind of like an acquired taste of like you get used to seeing the banknotes every single day and you kind of just get into it. That's cool.
Think of money, you think of value. A medium for you to exchange one thing for another. But money is also branding. There are millions of tiny billboards spread across an entire country. It's a place where a nation shows what it stands for, a canvas to display national heroes and icons. So why do Oxenaars feel like he's making a joke?
The notes had to have portraits on them of famous historical figures which would not create any political problems.
Portraits are the most used images on currency, and they can be a bit touchy. For some, a nation is nothing more than the sum of its people. We use portraits to hold some up as lessons and inspiration. For others, though, portraits can lift up people whose value system is out of date, maybe even threatening. Statues, intentional or not, can be monuments to colonizers, slave owners, and authoritarians. Maybe the same could be said of the faces we put on currency. Should Andrew Jackson, a president and also slave owner, be replaced by Harriet Tubman, a slave emancipator? Should we avoid figures entirely? The genius of
That is an interesting question, because if you're putting, he's right, because of branding, in the sense that when you do see a bank note, you're going to have to ask the question of but why is this person on the note? Or politically, is there going to be an issue of having that person on the note? So it's a fair question, but at the same time, if you kind of remove the person, or at least a kind of like a figure that's on the note, wouldn't you also lose maybe a character of the note, if that makes sense? You kind of, I'm not saying it's not always the case, but you can always make the argument that the character of the person who we perceive as the character of that person in our mind kind of represents the character of the note in a way, because that's how we kind of associate the portrait, the picture, with the note in our hand. So just giving it maybe like abstract objects kind of leads you to just disregarding the note, maybe? I could be wrong there.
Oxenaar's designs is that it didn't matter. He neither avoided people entirely or kept them. He caricatured them. This is George Washington. Fuck yeah, president. And this is Michiel de Ruyter.
Caricature, yeah, fair enough.
If you live in a country whose banknotes scream, "Take me seriously," keeping or removing a portrait will always be a controversy. If you have banknotes that play the fool, well, then there's not much of a throne to fight over. The Erflaters changed portrait currency, but it's Oxenaar's second series that turned it on its head.
That is fascinating to think about. He's right. If you do have something that is such a serious looking note, then you also not only represent the kind of the basis on which the note was built or created, but you also kind of remove the not say necessarily remove, but the sheer number of discussions and ramifications of problems that come up when you try shifting the person on that note is going to be insane, because people are like, well, why you want to remove it? Or why you think, so you think this person contributed more than this person? It's like, it opens a whole different door of problems. Oh,
He was asked to replace the 100 gulden and add a 50 and 250 banknote.
okay.
For the 100, he replaces the naval commander, not with someone else, but with a bird.
I mean,
This was crazy.
yes.
A snipe doesn't have ties to citizenship. It's a bird found in marshy land that happens to be in the Netherlands, but it is by no means the Netherlands.
Huh.
For hundreds of years, money was intimately tied to the faces of
I can
rulers,
understand why.
earth-changing scientists, and artists. Oxenaar played a joke on them all. He made the 100 gulden the first banknote in the Western world to no longer be a portrait, just a bird. With the 50 gulden banknote, he changed it up again.
Put a flower right there.
He proposes a sunflower, another object with no clear ties to a nation, but still an indirect homage to Van Gogh.
The glue had made the bee fall off from the top onto the flower, as though it flew there.
The 50 mark is horizontal. Some of its text is vertical.
Huh.
This tempts the owner to turn the bill around. You hand the cashier not money, but a flower. Finally, there's the
I
lighthouse.
never thought about it like that. He's right. Why does that opens up a different question? Why does a banknote need to have a character of a person or a set of principles that it stood on? Could it not be just as nice? I mean, could you imagine just how exhausting it is just basically paying someone and just have like a political figure on that note every single time? And depending on like, you know, the context of that note's creation, wouldn't it also be better to just, he's right, handing someone a flower is more often than not better than just handing someone a person's face. Fair enough.
House, Oxenaar's last and probably most
The
beautiful
lighthouse.
banknote.
Okay.
Zie je in het bankbiljet dat er hele kleine lettertjes verwerkt zijn. Bijvoorbeeld
And also I love the
de naam
the
van alle kustplaatsen
I
waar
also
vuur
love the
toe is.
vertical lines because it makes sense. I think banknotes should be printed vertically. It doesn't make sense to have it horizontally because you're paying the person in the note. You want to see the note when you pay it. Vertically makes more sense in my eyes.
Hello? Oxenaar wanted to make currency that symbolized the Netherlands without being a cliché.
No windmills, clogs, cows, or tulips.
Instead of projecting what the Dutch are loudly, Oxenaar intentionally chose symbols that were a bit more normaal. He then took it a step further by converting these symbols into security features.
That is smart, but I have to also admit this is one of the most aesthetically pleasing notes to look at.
Banknotes need to be secured against forgery. That's why banks will issue paper money with watermarks, so the bills are harder to copy. Oxenaar also designed watermarks, but they were different. Instead of heads or angels, Oxenaar chose animals.
Instead of heads or angels. Good context. Fair enough.
Instead of heads or angels, Oxenaar chose animals. For the 100, the watermark is the head of a snipe. On the flower, it's a bee. And on the lighthouse, a dune rabbit.
A dune rabbit?
Als je nou wilt nagaan of een bankbiljet van 250 echt is of niet, wat kun je dan het beste doen? Nou, dan neem je het bankbiljet, je houdt het tegen het licht en dan zie je verschijnen een watermerk. Een schaduwwatermerk. Waarom? Omdat er lichte en donkere plekjes in zitten.
Okay.
Lichter en donkerder dan de rest van het papier.
You can look through the note and you see a watermark that is a rabbit. It was a rabbit belonging to my girlfriend. Everybody has to walk around with my rabbit in their pocket. I like that.
Kijk je eens langs het biljet en dan zie je een vogeltje zitten, een schoolekster. Dat is een plaatje wat eigenlijk bestaat uit tweeën. De voorkant is de helft en de achterkant is ook de helft van die schoolekster. En als je dat nou tegen het licht houdt, dan wordt het een compleet plaatje.
The full picture.
On the 10 gulden bill and on the Spinoza are fingerprints.
I put something personal into this, my fingerprint in the hair of one of the world's most important philosophers, Spinoza. Very unholy of me, not very nice.
The smudge of a finger is so sloppy that no serious artist would dare to include it. Oxenaar did it anyway.
Balls on this man to put his fingerprint on top of a philosopher's head and then basically say, oh, by the way, it's part of the art, it's part of the security design, no one will ever know. Bro.
By the time that the Dutch National Bank realized what they were, it was too
Don't tell me
late.
you got away with it.
A joke in the pockets of an entire population.
That is the nice part of making banknotes. You can make monuments by the millions.
He did the same for the lighthouse.
Bro, the philosophy behind that is fascinating. He's right, because you don't need to have like a pyramid dedicated to you or your existence. Anyone who carries that banknote will have a piece of you. until the banknote retires. And even then, when it's in museums, it's a monument to your creativity and existence. Like, that is a very powerful sentence, what he said there. Damn.
Banknotes.
And I gotta admit, Hoog, I don't know how you learn animation, my G. The animation here is fire. Flames.
Monuments by the millions.
He did the same for the lighthouse. In the beacon, he hid 3 women's names: his granddaughter, girlfriend, and friend.
No, okay. My man has balls. My man has balls to do what he did. 3 people's names. Okay.
The engraver had included these names, also completely unknown to the Dutch National Bank. The combination of security features and Oxenar's personal humor was a reoccurring theme.
The smallest lettering that you see in that white square, well, this is meant so that when you are sitting somewhere in a private place like the toilet or somewhere like that, you have something to read.
Another counterfeiting technique is microprinting. Banks will put tiny design-printed features onto a banknote.
Okay.
This makes it difficult for counterfeiters to reprint it accurately with a standard photocopying machine.
Okay.
This can be done by printing small lines of text, but that's kind of boring. It's a security feature that's just kind of slapped on to the design.
The artist comes along, hands over his sketches, his ideas, and then they tell him, the design had to be changed, that's our job, we are responsible for security.
Het is natuurlijk altijd voor een technisch bedrijf een uitdaging om de wensen en de ideeën, de gedachten dus, van de ontwerper te kunnen verwezenlijken.
It's one way of doing it, treating a banknote design and its security feature.
That's correct, taking the functionality as superseding the creativity behind the note, which often loses the creativity in the note in the first place. It's a sacrifice in the process.
Separate jobs.
Right.
But there is also another way. You make the security features an integral part of the design.
Yes. I said I have to have unrestricted access to every detail, to every technique, to every secret, otherwise I cannot make a good design. I must know what the techniques are. The bank accepted this.
You can add a bunch of small thin lines because it makes the banknote secure. Or you can add a bunch of small thin lines because it's necessary for it to look good.
Het uitgangspunt bij het ontwerpen van de Nederlandse bankbiljetten is tweeledig eigenlijk. Dat het goed te produceren en ook goed te beveiligen moest zijn en daarnaast een goed gebruiksartikel. En dat is ook de reden waarom die biljetten er eigenlijk anders uitzien dan bijna alle andere biljetten in de wereld. Het is niet zomaar een optelsom van die factoren, maar het is een gevolg van...
You gotta respect that about an artist who actually goes off to understand every piece of that process and then basically says, yes, this is exactly how I want it to look. That's fair. It's very fair.
Concept.
For the 100, 250, and 50 gulden, each had their own simple primitive in the background, where you could find hundreds of microlines changing and adjusting to different areas in a grid. Were these necessary for the design or for the security? The beauty is that you can't tell.
Voor alle bankbiljetten, dus niet alleen voor
Couldn't afford to put an animation there.
geldt nog een vierde echtheidskenmerk en dat is de plaatdruktechniek. Dat kun je namelijk voelen met je vingertoppen. Als je langzaam over het biljet strijkt met je vingertop, dan voel je daarin dikke en grove lijnen. Dat zijn dikke inktlijntjes die erop gebracht zijn door het toepassen van een speciale druktechniek.
I chose very elementary colors because it was a small series of only 5 values.
Okay.
Instead of single colors or muted ones, Oxenar fought for vibrant reds, blues, yellows, and greens.
When I made my first banknote, the printers maintained that more color was an impossibility. They said, when you use a green, it must be very dark and blackish green, otherwise it's not safe. I discovered that this was not true. I just had to keep on asking and asking.
Oxenar's banknotes did not only stand out next to single-colored banknotes, but they also stood out among the colored ones. It's almost as though Oxenar's banknotes were like Monopoly money, which is, well, exactly what they were.
The only money I had seen which was as clear as I wanted money to be was Monopoly money. That was nice money in my eyes.
That's all it, honestly.
I hope that my own work looks a little bit like that.
You don't need to look at the number on Monopoly money to recognize its value.
Just the color itself is enough.
The design is clear, the layout standardized, and the typography loud. With the gulden, it was the same. At a moment's notice, the faintest glimpse, you could identify exactly which banknote.
The purple, I think, is the most beautiful for me. 250.
The specific colors that were chosen were almost nearly perfect. The primary colors blue, red, and yellow are the most visually clear for the human eye. Oxenar believed the notes which were used the most should also reflect that.
Distinguishable, right? Yeah.
When the value of the money was higher, only then would you find the secondary colors would you find the secondary colors? A dignified green.
I think I'll be honest, I do prefer basically the purple because it looks the nicest out of them. I know green is like the heaviest like amount of money and it has to look the most money because it's 1,000 Dutch kroner, I think is what they have it. So yeah, before the euro, I think.
Or royal violet.
Yeah.
If you're colorblind,
A violet obviously makes sense because it's a sense of royalty, the royal violet or purple, right? Really good.
you're probably not getting this video. But you could also still determine the gulden's value from large legible
Right.
letters.
The objective was to use very clear typography so that when you folded up the note, you could see what the value of the banknote was.
Oh, that is smart. That is smart. So when you even fold up the note and you hand it over to someone, they'll be able to get the value out of it. Oh, that is good because I think there's enough notes that I've seen where it's just like you fold it once and you really just you're lost half the time.
At least 4
And they all
times.
look the same as well. It's just like, okay, well now you actually have to open it and check it out for what it's worth.
Oxenar's designs were influential.
Yeah.
For the euro, they didn't consider using separate colors until the Dutch National Bank submitted a proposal based on his designs.
Okay.
He changed the rules for what a banknote could and should look like.
Iets is dat diep in Nederlanders aanspreekt. Als je vlak bij de kust woont, dan is dit zo'n markeringspunt en een beveiligingspunt tussen water en land. Ik denk dat het een heel mooi symbool is en heel herkenbaar voor Nederlanders, zo levende achter de dijk.
That is actually really nice because, even here the philosophy, like, you have the structure that distinguishes between water and land and it helps people out at sea. And it's a nice lighthouse. It's basically, to be fair, if that's not a more recognizable symbol to Dutch people, then I don't know what is. And I think what he encapsulated is more than just about the people, the animals, the structure. It's about the essence of what it means to be a Dutch person, if that makes sense. And I think there's something beautiful about that. 100%. There's something very beautiful about it. But yeah, that's the video. Hoog. I've never heard about this YouTube channel. HWG. My G. Phenomenal editing. Like I've not seen something this aesthetic for years. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will link Hoog's channel right in the description as well. Give him a shout, and catch you beautiful bastards in the next one. Peace. Take care. Nice.